The word yoga means to be yoked to Brahman,
Mhm.
the Hindu god. Like,
Yeah.
you're saying, you might as well call it demonic possession. I'm doing possession today. I'm gonna go to my little possession group. We're all gonna do possession together. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Things You Don't Hear in Church podcast. My name is Ethan.
And my name is Derry.
And guys, check us out on all the social medias: YouTube, iTunes, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok. We're posting a bunch on YouTube, really fun videos throughout the week, and we make videos and episodes answering your hard questions about the Christian faith. And today, we have a really fun episode coming up.
Yeah, today we're talking about something that I find annoying to watch, honestly, on YouTube, but something that's very worth talking about. And hopefully we're going to do it in a little bit different way
Ben
today.
Shapiro.
We're talking about Ben Shapiro. Just kidding.
He's not annoying.
We're talking about...
Just kidding. Just set the record straight. I do not find him annoying.
We're talking about manifestation, the law of attraction, those kinds of things. We've met a lot of Christians in evangelism, Christians in our own personal lives, who believe in the law of attraction, believe in manifesting things in their own lives. It's very popular in pop culture right now. Beyond that, some of the language of this movement has snuck into just the Christian vocabulary in general. If I give you a couple examples of ways, words, I guess, or phrases I hate that people always use. One that I hate people always say is like God's truth.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that people say. People
Just
say,
truth.
oh, this is God's truth. Let me tell you God's truth. It doesn't make any sense to me because I'm like, I thought we believed in an objective truth. And if God thinks something or does something, it is just the truth. It is not his version of the truth or his personal truth. Like, it's just the truth. Anyways, kind of a side note. The second one I really don't like is people in worship so much. It's in so many songs now, and people say it all the time. They say, like, God, manifest your presence here. Like, manifest in this room. We just manifest the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I'm like, what are you saying? Where in the world are you finding that vocabulary?
What Bible are you reading? Because my Bible says
Literally,
he's never going to leave me nor forsake me. So he's already here.
It's just like, it's crazy. Like, why would you try to manifest God's presence here? I understand that they're just using that word because it's popular. And really what they mean is they want like a fresh experience of who God is. But just the word is so loaded. And we're going to talk about why it's loaded today. The history behind it, kind of where it comes from, the definitions behind it. We're going to react to a couple video clips, and then we'll talk about more of, should Christians practice the laws of attraction, right? Should we practice manifesting things? Of course, I think anyone coming here might say no, but maybe we have an interesting take on that at the end.
You might be wrong.
Stick around to them to find our take.
You can manifest the truth. If you think hard enough, you can manifest to the end of this video and find out the truth about manifestation. One thing that maybe you forgot about for the Christian manifestation people is the name it and claim it people. These are like
that's true.
The cringe Christians who are like, if I decree and declare that I have something, it will be mine. And so I decree, like I used to be that cringe Christian. I used to decree and declare my hairline come back, and you guys can see how well that worked for me.
You're trying for a while though.
Yeah, I was a silly young Christian that the Lord was patient with. Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so where does this idea of manifestation come from? Celebrities talk about it all the time. That's one of the things that our video that we're going to talk about talks about. But yeah, celebrities, pop culture, even like pop Christians sometimes in their podcasts talk about it. Where does this come from? What is it rooted in?
Yeah, so this really is rooted in a lot of mysticism. A lot of the spiritual connections come from, obviously, Eastern religion, but it was technically created and popularized in the 1800s. Okay, so this guy named Phineas Quimby, he's the one who started the New Thought movement, and that really encompasses a lot of the bringing together of a lot of this ideology, a lot of just general New Age ideology, but especially like the law of attraction, manifestation, finding your best life, like manifesting your destiny, those kinds of things, right? That's what brought this together. And there's a lot of things that it's actually a church, the Church of the New Thought movement. There's a lot of different churches, but you can watch a lot of different YouTube channels that are actually really popular. Like you could go to a New Thought movement church
There's one
and
here in
they
Salem.
believe in God. Really? Wow.
Yeah, when I was
That
doing
doesn't surprise me.
I was doing some research on the New Thought movement, and the Mile High Church that's on YouTube is probably the most famous, most
Yeah.
popular one. I was watching their stuff,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're part of the Unity movement, not Unitarian." And I was like, "Hold on a second," because I always drive past this church, or not this church, this building called Unity of Salem on my way to Safeway. So I like typed it in, I looked it up on their website, and they're like, "Yep, fully into this New Thought movement." And I was
Dang.
like, "Wow, good thing I didn't go there."
You know what confuses me so much about those is I watched a lot of different videos from churches that are a part of this New Thought movement on YouTube, and every time I'd watch a video, there's nobody there. And I don't know where they get their money from, like honestly, because every single service I watched, I'm not kidding. I watched a lot of different like actual sermons from people from like Mile High and some other ones.
Mhm.
There's like maybe 20 people in attendance, and it's a
Mm.
huge building. But I'm just confused. It's like a small group,
Yeah, it's
or
like-
they have
like-
a selected viewership for taping. I don't know what it is.
They have a Patreon.
Yeah.
It's it's like Scientology. You're like, wait, how you guys actually have this funding? Maybe there's the few people who are in it are super rich, or maybe they have like cults in the middle
Mhm.
of nowhere that like fund
Mhm.
them.
Which is funny because it is a very popular movement. Like the
Mm.
ideology of it is very,
Yeah,
very popular and widely believed.
Right.
But
Like
there
how
was a
many?
lot of people in the service.
Yeah, there's so many people that you just meet every day. You could talk to someone that's like, oh yeah, I just believe in manifestation, or I believe like some people go more who are more into it, talk about like Christ consciousness, and it's like this new agey stuff. It's like very permeating our culture. You know, it's everywhere. You can go to any major city, and there's people who even like agnostics who wouldn't consider themselves like religious would be like, oh yeah, there's probably some type of forces, and you can put out energies. It's like
Yeah.
the whole sending good vibes to you, which like, what is that? How do you even do that?
Yeah. So this guy named Phineas Quimby kind of created that original like New Thought movement,
Mhm.
but the actual term of the law of attraction was created by a Russian philosopher named, I'm going to try to say this, Blavatsky.
That was
And
as accurate
she-
and fluent as you could be.
Thank you. It was a she, actually. And she was the one who actually coined this. He's the one who popularized the idea. This philosopher wrote more generally about it than Quimby did. Quimby wrote really in depth about what all of his thoughts around the law of attraction, manifestation, all this kind of stuff. But that's kind of like the origins of it. From there, it got real convoluted. There's a lot of different people writing a lot of different things about it. Some people more on the practical side, some people more on the spiritual side, some people connecting it to different religions, right? Like Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, different scriptures they're trying to tie in and connect these philosophies to. But really from this point on, in like the late 1800s, 1900s, it starts to just kind of go all over the place and be more of a free-forming thing where people are just believing all different kinds of the laws of attraction, whether it's like more of the hard work side of it, like we're going to talk about, or the more spiritual side of actually manifesting things from somewhere. So we're going to get into all of that. Maybe we can talk about, Ethan, a little bit, some people that you've experienced or talked to that believe in the law of attraction, things that they say, just their background and experience with it before we move into some definitions.
Yeah, most of my experience has been with people in the name it and claim it side of things who believe that if they pray whatever they want, it'll come true. And there's Bible verses they reference where they talk about how I think it's Jesus says if you pray and you believe that you have it, you will receive it. If you pray and James says if you pray and you don't doubt, you'll get what you pray for. There's other scriptures that caveat you have to pray in line with the will of God. And a lot of people have a presupposition that whatever they want is what God wants. Like, oh, if I want this for my life, it must be a good thing. So therefore, God must also want me to have good things. So I'll manifest this or I'll pray into it. A lot of people on Instagram or YouTube shorts who talk about this are like, oh yeah, I was just manifesting this and I really envisioned this and it came to light. And a lot of it looks like imagining. A lot of it looks like positive thinking and working towards that thing and it happening, which I'll share more of my thoughts on that perspective later in the show. But that seems to be the pop culture, at least in my interaction with people, is envision yourself and work towards it and you'll have it. And it's like a for sure thing. It's not like a if, it's more like a when type attitude. Or if you keep you have to keep manifesting, you have to keep manifesting. It honestly sounds like I don't know how this relates, but it feels like it gives multi-level marketing. Like when I hear people talk about it, I'm like,
it
this.
does, the energy.
Yeah, it's the vibes. Your vibes are multi-level marketing.
Yeah. You bought into something that just seems very obviously not a good idea, but you're super bought in
And you're really trying to get me to like
to also
man,
believe it.
you really like these Cutco knives. I'm just not sure I want to get in on this.
It's crazy. The person that I met that is the most hardcore on this, like what you believe will become reality kind of kick, which is the law of attraction, right?
Mhm.
I met this kid doing evangelism on the University of Hawaii campus one time, maybe earlier last year, something like that. Just skating around, talking to people. And I talked to him and we were talking about philosophy and where does like God come from? Who is God? All that kind of stuff. And he basically got down to the point of like the beginning of his worldview after our conversation and was like, yeah, I believe that whatever somebody believes ultimately will just be true for them. And I was like, okay, so like if someone's a Hindu, like Hinduism is true. If someone's a Christian, Christianity is true. And he's like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, how does that work with like an afterlife? And he was like, whatever kind of afterlife you believe in is where you're going to go. And I was like, so if I believe like in hell and I also don't believe in God, or like I don't want to choose to believe like in the Christian God, then I'm going to go to that version of hell. And he's like, yeah.
What?
Like whatever you believe is just going to happen.
I just would love to know how he came to that decision.
I was so impressed with his like worldview, honestly, because I had never met someone that like could keep it that consistent.
I met a guy.
Wow, that's like usually it breaks down.
Right. I met a guy on the same campus who told me that he believes that when you die, it's like a giant spin the wheel, and you just spin the wheel, and all the different heavens from every different religion, and all different hells from every different religion, and reincarnation and all that stuff. It's all on the wheel, so you just spin it and see what you get, and that's what you get. And I was like so flabbergasted.
Where did he come up with that?
I don't know. I was so flabbergasted that I was actually speechless because I was like, this guy can't be serious. Like, there's no way.
He can't be serious. He's got to be trolling you.
So I was like, wait. And I didn't want to be rude either. So I was like, but you actually believe this? And he's like, yeah. I was like, what? And I was like literally having trouble finding words. I was like, why do you believe this? And he's like, that makes it more fun. I don't really think about it too much. And I was like, okay, so you don't actually believe this. You just don't care. That's what I hear.
That's awesome. Most people don't care. They're just like, it sounds like a fun idea. Why not?
Yeah. I'm like that with some things. Look, you could have this. You have two possible
worldview.
Yeah, not my entire world, just parts of it. You know, if you have two possible interpretations of scripture and both could be doctrinally true, sometimes I'm like, why not go with the fun one? It makes it more fun. Nephilim could be just human giants, or they could be demons. Why not to go with the demons? It's more fun. But I do believe there's truth, and it doesn't matter. So just so anyone who wants to critique biblical interpretation, there's meanings that matters. It's objective. Just want to appease you guys.
Nice. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but more on like the spiritual side of things. I think the reason people really will take their worldview to that like nth degree to say like, yeah, you're all just going to go to the afterlife that you believe in kind of a thing is because some people, not everybody, right? Some people that believe in this believe that God, aka the universe, is also us.
You. Yeah.
Right. So God is just energy, and we are also just energy, right? So we are God, just in different form. So we are like a type of God experiencing itself in this subjective kind of form, right? And so because we are God and we are energy, whatever we create with our own minds, which is the most powerful form of energy we can kind of attain, is what is going to happen. Because we're God, we're the creators, right? We're like whatever we want to happen is going to happen. So like in our afterlife, we're God. Whatever our version of that is going to happen because we're God. So when they say it like that, I'm like, okay, like I understand the logical flow of your thought. It doesn't make any sense philosophically, of course, but I understand where you're going.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's a big proponent of that. We are the universe experience itself. I've heard tons of people say that. Just the other day, I was talking to my coworker, and that's his worldview, is he believes that, you know, we're all part of the same thing, trying to experience ourselves, and when everybody has been everybody, then we'll stop. But
Mm.
that's
It
interesting
falls
though,
apart
because
so fast.
people are always
It's
being
insane.
born. So yeah.
Yeah.
Usually the people who believe that seem well-meaning, and they seem like they have a
Mhm.
they want to have like a positive perspective about the universe and be the most empathetic, so that they don't want to make anyone mad. No one has to be wrong. But yeah, it does. If you push on it, it does have a lot more questions than answers. Like
Mm.
if you're talking
It's
about,
simply defeated. Oh, sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say if you're talking about a God existing, by definition, God has to be self-sufficient. So why would he need to experience, or it need to experience itself? Like, what is it lacking that it
Yeah.
needs to experience? You know?
By definition of what God is, being in like philosophical terms, a maximally supreme being, right? If God has all of the knowledge, which he would have to have, in having all the resources, if there's knowledge to have, you'd have to have it. He cannot then take away that knowledge from himself, right? So within Christianity, we have sort of this question problem with Jesus becoming a man and having limited knowledge. Different question for different day. But imagine that question times trillions of people, right? That's the same problem that these people have of like, okay, well, if you're the universe experiencing itself, how in the world do you not have all of the knowledge that there is to have? And maybe
And
you're just not aware of it. How did you
yeah,
limit your awareness?
yeah. And how is the universe? Like, there has to be some kind of over thought in the universe to organize us, the lack of information in everybody. You know, there
Yeah,
has to be some organizing. And it's also like, well, if you're the universe who is experiencing itself, how did you come to be? Did you just decide to
right.
exist? Because that means you're not like. That means that actually would be interesting if they said yes, because that would reveal a conscious universe. Okay, so you believe the universe has some type of consciousness that's
Right.
cosmic. We're getting closer to God.
I mean, how could you believe? How could you believe that you're God and that you're conscious, but like the universe is also not conscious?
Yeah,
That would
and
be insane.
like a tree would have to be as conscious as you are then. And then
Yeah,
maybe
to an
that's
extent.
why people would be vegan if they feel that way, because at least for animals. But it's like, well, you're in trouble if everything is you, because you shred
Right.
paper, you throw things out. It's just like it's now maybe that part is that's supposed to be thrown out and shredded is that's an experience the universe needs for some reason. So maybe nothing matters.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? All right, let's get into more of the actual laws of attraction, all that kind of stuff, and play
First
some
law of
video
attraction
clips.
is to go to the gym. That's the first law of attraction.
No, the first law of attraction is you don't talk about the
You
laws of
don't,
attraction.
you know, that's the first rule of
Yeah.
attraction.
Sorry, yeah. The first rule
I
of
guess rules
attraction.
and laws are the same thing.
Whatever,
The
yeah.
second law of attraction is go to the gym. Okay, so this is a YouTube video called "Is the Law of Attraction Real?" Documentary how manifestation actually works. It's a pretty well done documentary. Like whoever made this,
Good.
he put solid work into this. It's professional. As far as creation and production, it's great. We just disagree with the worldview. So we're gonna go ahead and play this, starting at the 30-second mark, where we define the law of attraction. Not define, we introduce. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Current, rather mechanistic modern paradigm, human thoughts and consciousness are viewed as little more than neuronal action potentials, firing automatically in the central nervous system. And yet the sages of many ancient Eastern spiritual traditions viewed thoughts very differently, as a form of energy that could influence not only our own lives, but the world around us. While most mainstream scientists would probably dismiss such an idea offhand, is it really so preposterous to think that thoughts and emotions might be forms of invisible energy, much like magnetism or radio waves? Imagine you were to travel 500 years back in time.
Okay, so is that where you wanted to stop?
There we go. Yeah, it's good.
All right.
I think, first off the bat, he's absolutely correct. Like, he's trying to separate that, like, we don't know that thoughts are an amount of energy. We do. Like, we know that thoughts are not some ethereal thing just like off in a void somewhere that's like spiritual. That's not true. Like, scientists can observe the thoughts in your brain and what they actually are, right? They can observe the neural pathways.
Mhm.
And, like, it is an amount of energy. It's an observable amount of energy. So it's not like we can't observe the amount of energy that a thought is. We can.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
it's quantifiable. Like,
Yeah.
we know how much energy, and which is weird that he thinks this because he's a doctor. Like, he says this in later on when he introduces himself.
Yeah.
That was just interesting to me.
Yeah, it
'Cause
is.
It's not like a special kind of energy we don't know. Like, we know what the energy is.
Yeah. Well, I think what he would probably say is like, well, we know how magnetism works in a sense. Maybe we know
Mhm.
that. Like, we know gravity is a force, we know magnetism is a force. And then he goes on to talk about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all this stuff. And it's that's an interesting perspective that I thought was like a really good intro, where it's kind of like, oh yeah, do we actually understand the power of thought? Like, can thoughts have the same amount of, or not similar, a similar amount of type of force on objects as magnetism does, right? Where like, and he goes into this later in the video. I don't know if it's in any of the parts that we're gonna watch, where he talks about how like, yeah, a small magnet's not gonna lift a car, but if you get a big magnet, you can. So like certain small intentional thoughts aren't gonna do big things, but can you get to a place eventually where your thoughts are so focused that you have like telekinesis?
Yeah.
Doubtful, because like you said, we can see those thoughts on we can observe the thoughts on brain scans, but also we can observe like magnetism in a sense and see the effects of it.
Exactly.
And there's like the people who put like the metallic sand basically, and they show the magnetic field.
Right.
It's like you can see that, and we haven't discovered that for thoughts. Now his question is, yeah, we haven't discovered it. Will we later? Is it possible we could? And that's a really interesting question, because I don't. What if we say no right now, and then in 120 years we're wrong, and we're like, dang, that's crazy. I'd say probably not. But
yeah, it's just such an interesting idea, because we can observe the energy that thoughts take in the brain, right? Just like we can observe Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, electrical signals, the energy from the sun, the things that he mentioned, right? We can observe all those things. What he's saying is, but wait, what if the thoughts that we can observe in our minds, what if they can also like create things, realities outside of our minds, right? What if Wi-Fi could actually grow apple trees? Like you're just gonna make up stuff that it could possibly do?
It can't
like,
grow,
sure,
but
like,
certainly
there's
destroys
a
and corrupts them.
Yeah. There's a possibility that like Bluetooth could also drive my car for me, but like it's probably not gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's interesting.
Like it's not gonna happen. And so it's just making up things that that like making up that Bluetooth could do something crazy or Wi-Fi could do something crazy is the same as saying, well, what if our thoughts could create reality outside of ourselves? Like,
well,
there's zero observable evidence for it, but it's possible.
Well, that's exactly the critique that he just said, was our modern sciences say this is a silly thought, which is hilarious because he just said there's no observable evidence.
But he bases it, and he says, just because we can observe the energy going on in the mind right now doesn't mean that there isn't something there happening. And my point is, no, we can observe it, and we know what's happening. There's no mystery. We know what's happening in the mind. We know what thoughts are. Like, it's not special. Like, we know what's going on. Like, of course, we don't fully grasp every part of human thought, because the human mind is more complex than all of the computers on the earth, right? And its computing power.
Well,
by multiple times over.
Not all of them.
Times over.
These new AIs are pretty on par. No, just kidding.
Just by computing power, it's pretty powerful. So we don't know everything for sure, but like, just like we don't know everything about a lot of systems that are complex, we know a lot about it still, right? We know a lot about how the brain works. And so, yeah, interesting point. We can move on to the next clip.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, the thing I think that's different between our view and his view is that, so he's looking at Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. These are all things that are sent out external of the device and then received by something else. And we probably look at thoughts as just internal, captive here,
right,
and they don't do anything else. He's saying like, he's pushing the idea like, is it possible that our thoughts are actually radiating out? And just like that, he played that little video with the little graphic going out.
Yeah.
And that's where it'd be kind of, the way you'd have to measure that is somehow be like, okay, can we have some type of receptor that like you're thinking about, like literally mind reading? You have to have some computer that could measure the mind reading, where you're like, you're thinking about green apples, and then like some computer says, yeah, he's thinking about green apples.
Right.
Which
exactly
not possible.
The difference between all of those things is that at the most base level, like the radiation from the sun, I could not know how that works or be able to observe the actual radiation coming from the sun, but I know what it's like to experience the effects of the sun. There's nobody in the world that knows what it's like to experience the effects of someone else's thoughts outside of that person like somehow externalizing their thoughts.
Right.
There's no receptor to the person putting out their thoughts that we've ever observed.
Mm-hmm.
And also within like the law of attraction, usually it's just the individual that's having the thought that's gaining the reality or gaining the thing that they're manifesting, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. Like you're the like the distributor and the receiver of the energy. It's interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone would ever claim they manifested their girlfriend or boyfriend.
100%. Oh, 100%. I've seen whole videos on it. I watched a video like last week.
I was
like,
manifesting me getting in a relationship, and then I started going on dating apps and meeting people, and I got in a relationship. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's
actually insane.
I know I'm kind of revealing my opinions already, but it's like it feels like a lot of manifestation stuff is just trust me, bro, science.
Like, 100%.
Anyways,
I worked hard. And I swear it wasn't my hard work that did this. I swear, like I manifested it, 100%.
Dude, I was manifesting a down payment on my car or my house, and I just worked really hard and didn't spend any money. And like in 6 months, I had enough money to put a down payment.
It's insane. Dang, great job manifesting.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Keep it up.
I'm manifesting this podcast get like 1 million subs. And I'm also going to keep working hard and posting every week to get more subs.
Yeah. The only difference, I think that they would say in a clip that we're not actually going to show later on, they show a clip of Jim Carrey, and he talks about how he wrote himself a check for $10 million and he signed it for 5 years in the future. And then he said he got a contract for $10 million for Dumb and Dumber, like almost exactly 5 years later. And so in that instance, like, yeah, he worked hard. He did a good job. He's talented. Crazy that it was just like, they would say it's not a coincidence that, exactly 5 years later when he like said it, that this thing happened. So this is where we get into the distinction between the two different kinds of manifestation, right? Did something give that to him, right? Like, did he manifest an energy that then like went out to a creator or the universe and that brought it back to him? Or did he create it within himself with the work that he did and the belief? Interesting nuance. We'll talk about it more later.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Nope.
In short summary,
no.
What's the time?
Law of attraction is the idea.
This is at 4. We're gonna start at 4:46. Or 4:40. We're at 4:41 right now. It just the whole screen went big, so I had to back it up. So 4:41.
Also, a number of prominent YouTubers discussing the idea in exhaustive detail. In short summary, the law of attraction is the idea that thoughts are a form of energy emitted into the world, and thus influence the world and attract things back to you that resonate and harmonize with those thoughts. This is also known by many as manifestation. And thus, positive and healthy thinking patterns over the course of time are thought to attract more positive things and circumstances into your life. I mean, once you start researching this concept, it is quite shocking how many highly successful and prominent individuals in our society have touted the benefits of positive thinking and visualization.
I truly. All right. So basically, power of positive thinking. You're putting your energies out there. You're thinking really hard about it. You're having positive thinking, and eventually you get back what you put out. And you put out this positive thinking about this. Yeah, this $10 million check that Jim Carrey is going to talk about, and you get that thing. That's what they were talking about.
Yep. It seems to me like a lot of the like power positive thinking stuff, I think that works. Like, genuinely, what you think is going to affect your mood, which is going to change your like lived experience of reality, right? It doesn't change reality itself. Okay. Like if I'm in debt, me having a good attitude about me being in debt doesn't change the fact that I'm in debt, but it changes my experience of being in debt. So in a way, it does change my life, but it's not like some ethereal, mystical thing that like I'm sending out my vibes to and it's coming back and returning to me like good, right? Yeah. I'm going to probably get more opportunities because I'm being a positive person just in my life, because I'm seeing positive things. Like if I'm a positive person, I'm going to see opportunities to better myself, to better my situation, to better the people around me, which are then going to afford me better, like more and better opportunities from those people, from myself, from just seeing like possible options. If I'm in a terrible mood, I'm not seeing those options, right? I'm not looking for those things. I'm just like, life sucks. I don't care. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, because you have such a positive attitude, it's not a spiritual thing. It's just like, just a fact of life, right? That I'm
Yeah.
going to be more aware and better things are going to happen because of my actions, not because of my thoughts or my will.
Yeah, it's so interesting because that's exactly right. Like, if anyone was going to ask, oh, can Christians manifest? And it's like, well, if you're asking, can Christians think positively and look for opportunities and take them? Have at it.
Mhm.
Have a ball. Like, no, whatever. But, you know, if you're going to say, can I channel my will and exert my will in the universe and whatever I want? It's like, oh, probably not. But yeah, it's so, it's like, I just get so frustrated because I'm like, it's almost like a self fulfilling prophecy where it's like, I
Yeah.
wanted this thing and I thought about it every day and I worked towards it. It's like, okay, you were focused and you had discipline and you sacrificed for it. Yeah, if you set your mind to something, if you're like, look, dude, I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year, and you're really focused about it, you really get your diet in order, you really hit the gym, you're really like getting good sleep, and you're doing, and you're taking the right vitamins and stuff, like you're gonna lose the weight. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I manifested
Mhm.
this. It's like, no, you didn't manifest it. You didn't sit down in a room and just think about it and then do not like you didn't like it wasn't magical. That's like
Mm.
when pop culture talks about manifestation, it often seems like it's just over. It's just hard. It's just hard work and focus. It's just like dedication. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, of course. Like you reap what you sow. Like, yeah,
Mm. Mm. I love what Dana White says about this. We had a clip about that that I don't think we're going to show on the show, but he says
Yeah.
the best version of the law of attraction that I've heard, because he believes in the spiritual side of it, right? Which is really interesting that he does, because he doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But he's like, yeah, I've seen these fighters, and they just have this mentality of I'm the best. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be the best and actualize the best. They know they're going to be the champion, right? The thing is, there's a lot of people who know they're going to be the champion that never become the champion. And so it's sort of like a confirmation bias where
Yeah.
there's all these people who like that doesn't happen to them. But the few that does happen to, everybody has to have that killer instinct, that killer mentality, almost like a narcissism to believe that they're the best, to put in the work, to actually believe in themselves that much, to like make something like that happen. The thing is, they're still the one making it happen. And there's lots of
Right.
people who tried to make it happen, and just because of natural talent or their dedication wasn't good enough or whatever, they're not going to become the champion of the UFC, even though they believed they were. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. You see so many success stories, and it's like, well, the success stories we see are like a handful of maybe millions of people who are like trying to manifest, and nothing's happening. And it's like,
Yeah.
I wonder if they, because that's, I know the name it and claim it would say, you just gotta have more faith. I wonder if they'd say the same thing, like you just gotta think more about it.
Hmm.
And as far as the Jim Carrey thing is, that $10 million is really interesting. I'm curious. We can talk about it later, but if we don't want to spoil it yet, but I'm curious about what you think if there's any spiritual entities behind that. You know, if there's anything that like he's in. I mean, he's in Hollywood. You know, they do a lot of weird occultic stuff. You
Mm.
know,
Just
lot
as
of-
the Bible says, right? In Corinthians, in 1 Corinthians, there, when there's an idol, there's a demon behind it.
Ooh,
Right? So if somebody
That's good.
if somebody creates an idol, then there's going to be some kind of demon presenting in a form of power behind that thing, because anything that you're not worshiping that's God, right, is going to be of a different kingdom. There's only one other kingdom, the kingdom of darkness. So there are demons, spirits, right, behind those things. So 100%.
Mhm.
With the spiritual implications of manifestation and of the law of attraction, there are demons behind it. So 100% power can be coming from those things, and people can be experiencing the more spiritual side of this, not like the hard work and dedication side of it. There could be spiritual forces on that end too, but especially on the like, I'm putting my thoughts, my positive thoughts out into the universe. I'm manifesting, $100 in my bank account or whatever. I think spirits can work in that way and donate money into your bank account, like, or can influence other people to put money in your bank account. I think that can happen, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, 100% that can happen.
Yeah. And I don't want to always sound like that. Like, Christians are always kind of trolled as being like anything that's not good or anything that's not from the Bible is demonic. And it's like, it can get kind of like cheesy or cringy, but it's kind of like, well, guys, we sound cheesy and cringy because the truth doesn't change. Like, yeah, if it's not from the kingdom of God, it's not from any other kingdom but Satan. And
Yep.
Satan only wants you not saved. So whether he's got demons confirming things that seem like Islam's right, or he's got demons confirming things that make it look like New Age is right, or he has demons making you think there is no God. It's like he doesn't care what you believe as long as you don't put your faith in Jesus Christ. You know, that's his MO.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, Jim Carrey wants $10 million in 5 years. How about in 5 years? Yeah, I work my little my strings right now to get him this opportunity in 5 years, so he will think this law of attraction is real and never follow God, because he'll think he's God, because this belief thinks that you're God.
And it doesn't mean you shut down your logical like faculties and be like, nope, just it's any doubt, any like evidence for a different religion or evidence against my religion, that's just a demon, right? That's not what we're talking about, like Eden said, right? There are powers, and when you see those powers at play or on display, then that you can say maybe is a demon, right? If it's not of God, just scripturally, you can say like de facto that's what that is. And it's a pretty easy jump.
Yep. All right. Should we get into this guy's personal testimony, saying he's a doctor and he's seen the law of manifestation in real time with his patients? All right. We're at 11:26, Derry.
Alrighty.
Furthermore, I have a somewhat unique perspective because I worked in the medical field for many years. As an intern, resident, fellow, and later attending physician, I evaluated and treated many thousands of patients, and I witnessed certain patterns play out time and again. My specialty is interventional pain medicine, and so for example, let's say you were to compare two patients with very similar demographic backgrounds and past medical histories, both suffering from the same condition, such as an acute lumbar radiculopathy, and only differed in terms of mindset. More often than not, the patient with the optimistic and healthy mindset will recover far faster. I saw this pattern play out time and again over the years. Of course, many would point out that patients with a healthier and more optimistic mindset are simply much more likely to engage in their physical therapy program and home exercises with greater dedication and consistency. But it's important to note that the relationship between positive thinking patterns and positive actions is actually a huge aspect of the law of attraction, though this is the obvious physical aspect of the law, rather than the much more nebulous metaphysical aspect. Of course, over many years, seeing this pattern play out so strongly, I couldn't help but get the sense that there was so much more to this than just the physical aspects. It got to the point where I could usually predict with very good accuracy which patients would recover quickly and easily, and those who would have a very difficult recovery course, even just during the initial consult. And of course...
Interesting. So we just got past the initial consult part. Do you want to go farther than that?
Yeah. No, it's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I love that he said... you could say that people who had a better attitude are just going to stick to their plans more and take their medicine more and stretch more and do the physical therapy. But, there's probably something else going on. I'm like, no, that's exactly what I would say. It's like, that's exactly what I would say. It's like, yeah, if you have a good attitude about your recovery and about your healing, and you're like, I'm going to take this seriously. Like, you're telling me in like 6 weeks I can have my mobility back. Awesome. I'll really dedicate to it. And if you're just, naturally, if you're a more positive person or you practice being positive, you're going to be more willing to follow through on things. You're going to be less cynical, so you're going to believe the doctor and say, hey, if you do this physical therapy, this will be the results. You're going to be like, okay, cool, I'll do it. And it won't feel heavy. And a lot of times people don't follow through on that stuff. It's because maybe it's weighing them down. There's stress. It feels heavy. So if you have a positive attitude, you don't have all that heaviness. So you're like, yeah, I can do it. And then you do see it. And maybe... I do think there's probably something real about the perspective, the attitude of the person. Definitely probably plays a big role, but I don't know if there's any physicality, like, I don't know if there's any documented link between thinking good and actually healing fast. Now, maybe there is. I would not be surprised if there is. If that's how science discovered.
Actually.
Okay, awesome. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I have a couple examples, but going off a point that you were just saying, sure, like it's such an obvious thing. Like, I don't want to be rude. Okay, so if you're somebody who is stressed, just medically, you're not going to heal as fast. You have an extra stressor on your life. That's an extra thing your immune system, your body has to take on, and so your body is going to work harder, just from a biological sense, right? If you aren't stressed, and actually you're happy and you're doing great, you're laughing, like laughing is the best medicine. Like, that's not like a fun thing to say. Like, that's actually true. Like, your mood and how happy you are is really good for you. Okay. So if you are happy, you don't have that stressor. In fact, you have positive things happening in your body. So you are going to heal faster. There was a book that came out recently. I can't remember what it was called, but it was about expectation, like the law of expectation or the effects of expectation or something like that. And they just looked at the negative sides of. I haven't read it. I just like read an excerpt from it, and they were looking at the just the negative impacts of expectations. And so they looked at the rise of gluten intolerances, and they found that like over 90% of people who say that they're gluten intolerant just experience gluten intolerance because they believe that they're gluten intolerant, not because they actually are. And the way they did that, they did a big study, that 100 people, they had a placebo group and a normal group, right? And they gave everybody what they said was gluten, and it wasn't actually gluten. And like everybody threw up and had diarrhea and had a terrible time. And then they're like, just kidding. It was all not gluten. And you just ate just normal non-gluten bread.
Dude, they manifested a gluten allergy. That
literally
sucks.
No, literally they did.
That sucks. So yeah, it's a link to like, so that's another thing, right? So someone might say that and actually be genuine, like, oh yeah, they're manifesting a gluten allergy. But the difference is that this manifestation we're analyzing is talking about thinking things here and external outside my body results coming to me, like I'm a magnet of success. What we're talking about is, no, your mental state does have an effect on the rest of your body. Like if you're stressed, you're not going to lose weight as fast. And if you're underslept, you're going to be more stressed and you're not going to lose weight, right? And so stress is linked to so many medical things. And so, yeah, like we're talking about the body brain, not the everything else.
Those people that were in that study didn't actually have a gluten intolerance. It's not like they manifested a real gluten intolerance into their body, right? So they don't really have a gluten intolerance. They could eat gluten and be fine, right? They have a fake gluten intolerance that is impacted by how their body thinks it's supposed to react because of a belief. So it's still the person's actions. Nothing spiritual is happening. Nothing crazy, mystical, like is happening. No, they didn't actually like just give themselves an intolerance. They don't have one, right? And if they knew that it was a placebo and there was no gluten in it, they wouldn't have had a reaction, right? Because they're not, their body's not reacting to any gluten. So yeah, that's just to say they're not manifesting anything. It's just their body had an expectation. Okay, so yeah, expectations are powerful, right? 100%. Very powerful. There was this drill my old tennis instructor used to tell us about where they did a study. They had 3 different groups shooting free throws. One group actually shot free throws. One group imagined themselves shooting free throws. And the other group didn't shoot, right? I don't know why balloons are going off right now. And the group that didn't shoot, I did. The group that didn't shoot obviously shot worse than the people who actually practiced, right? But the people who actually practiced shot the same percentage, roughly, as the people who just imagined themselves shooting and imagined the ball going in, right? So our minds do have a powerful impact on how we actually act, but it's not like some crazy spiritual change that happens, not something that we're manifesting to happen. It's just that your expectations are very powerful and scientifically observable. Does that make sense? It's not a special spiritual thing that's happening. It's that your will is very powerful and you can will yourself to do things. The mind is a powerful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderfully said. All right. So let's go on to this next little clip where we're going to, look at his claim that thoughts and emotions have energy like the sun.
It's just different forms of energy, including your own body. I don't find it much of a stretch to hypothesize that thoughts and emotions could also be forms of energy that science has not yet figured out how to directly observe and measure. I also don't think it's that much of a stretch to hypothesize that such an energy could exert influence on the world around us, the same way that the electromagnetic waves of sunlight warm your skin on a spring day. Lastly, I find it immensely fascinating how many great sages and religious figures throughout the world from various backgrounds have espoused concepts that directly evolved into what is now taught in modern self-improvement circles as the law of attraction. This includes the teachings of Jesus, Buddha, and the Hindu sages. In fact...
Okay, so he says he wouldn't be surprised if science in the future found out that our thoughts and emotions have effects on matter, like the sun has effects on our skin. And then he referenced a bunch of religious leaders and claims that they back this. He only went into, in the next little bit, a Hindu or a Buddhist reference. So he references Jesus there, just so everyone's clear. We're not going to get deep into it, but Jesus didn't back this. And I'll explain why this is not a Christian practice as far as its intent towards the end of the video. But yeah, not a Christian practice. But yeah, Derry, what are you thinking? Do our thoughts and emotions have impact on the world like the sun on our skin?
I think just to say that do your thoughts have an impact on matter is a true statement. Like, yes, your thoughts do impact matter because your thoughts are made of matter, right? And so they have an impact on the matter that is your body, depending on how you react to them. But your body is connected to your mind, which is giving you a thought. And so, unless you believe some things about thoughts, like you can get thoughts from the devil, different podcast, okay, or thoughts from God, right? Different podcast. But yeah, so yes, they do have an impact like that, but they are not being transmitted, right? And there's a lot of people like in this community that think they are being transmitted, okay? And that's where we get a lot of the terminology nowadays about like the vibes of somebody, the vibes they're putting off. It actually like relates to actual vibrations.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these people think that, you know, my thoughts, my energy is being vibrated off of me and it's going to impact other things, other people, right? Thing is, we actually have the instruments to measure vibrations and there's none coming off of you.
Is it
right?
not? Let
Like,
me look that up real quick. I thought I heard someone say
you
that
can, yeah.
there is.
I am
Well,
not
I
in
know-
control.
Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
I was just saying, I've heard people say, and I thought it was pretty true and understood that everything does have a frequency. And so that's where they're getting that from. Like they can observe,
Oh, for sure.
like a human has a frequency different than a lion. But I don't know what that necessarily means.
What do you mean by frequency? Like frequency you can hear? Or
you can't hear it, but you could probably measure it with something that like the human being is vibrating at some type of frequency, and so is everything else. I thought that's what was backed by science or observation.
I've never heard that. I know
Okay.
human beings give off energy, right? Just as any like living thing will give off an amount of energy, but I don't think that that's measured in vibrations necessarily. Especially, it's not controlled by like negative or positive vibrations. Like that's
This-
especially like the thing that they're trying to say.
Yeah, Harvard.edu says many researchers found the human whole body fundamentally resonant frequency to be around 5 hertz. I don't know what that means.
So those are vibrations we can feel. Because
I mean,
obviously we can feel
some
vibrations.
instrument can pick it up. Do humans emit
Well,
frequencies?
I know we interact with frequencies or vibrations very differently, which is why human beings like want to fall asleep like in a car. Like the vibration of a car or the vibration of a plane sometimes can make you want to fall asleep because we do respond to different vibrations, but I don't know if we like give off vibrations that can impact other people in a noticeable way. I don't think
Yeah, I wouldn't-
I've never heard that
Yeah.
scientifically proven.
I don't think it's like a noticeable thing. Like I can't like change my frequency to like make you feel bad. But it's just like I think the idea is that because every cell is vibrating back and forth, like we know like solids, the atoms are not stationary, they're just vibrating
Right,
really close. Technically that little shaking gives off a type of frequency. And apparently I just read it's like anywhere from
An
6
energy.
to 6 to 10 hertz by humans. But what that means in reality, as far as it relates to manifestation, your thoughts probably don't have vibrations.
Nothing observable, at least,
Yeah.
which is my point.
The vibrations that can
Yeah.
be transmitted out. Yeah.
Yep. So I just think that's a very interesting and also silly point to say, like, oh, like I'm just vibrating these things out into the universe. And you're just trying to pull together some random scientific thing and just say that it's true.
Because
I don't know. Maybe it could be.
Yeah.
It could be, but I don't think it is.
It's funny. He says like, could our thoughts have effects on matter like the sun has an effect on us? And it's funny because I'm like, well, if you just want to use that direct example, all the sun does to us besides helping us create vitamins, which is good for us. If it's too much, we burn and it's really bad for us. And so our thoughts can only destroy. Is that what I'm hearing? But I would say the phrase, do thoughts have an effect on reality or nature like the sun does our skin? I would say in a sense, yes, but only because thoughts produce actions. Like you have to think about committing a crime before you follow through on committing that crime. So technically that was originally a thought that played out into an action that did have an effect on reality, but it didn't magically, mystically happen without any intervention of your part in your body. So it's like, yeah,
Right.
you have to have an intention that is then followed by an action. And so, yes,
Yeah.
in that capacity, but not in the way that he's getting it, I don't think.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead to 1727. 1727. What is the practical application of the law of attraction?
Cool.
Better mindset, attitude, and beliefs will inevitably lead to more positive behaviors over time, which inevitably will lead to more opportunities and a better life. Furthermore, just from a practical psychology standpoint, it is obvious that if you adopt a good attitude, more people around you will respond positively to you. In fact, it was Emerson who famously stated that, sow a thought and you reap an action, sow an act and you reap a habit, sow a habit and you reap a character, sow a character and you reap a destiny. I love this quote because it is a very concise, practical, and secular description that captures the essence of the law of attraction. And if you are a more spiritual, intuitive person, the metaphysical aspect simply adds another huge and fascinating layer that provides further motivation for optimizing your thoughts, mindset, and beliefs. Keep in mind that this doesn't mean you are not allowed to have negative thoughts. Bad things happen to everyone in life, and it is obviously healthy to properly mourn and to experience negative emotions during those times. An awareness and effective implementation of the law of attraction would simply mean to not dwell excessively or habitually upon negative thought patterns, to avoid catastrophizing, and also to learn how to reframe thoughts to become more empowering when it is reasonable to do so. Also,
Probably not the best time to pause on that. Yeah, so he's saying the practical application is to keep thinking positive thoughts, and you will inevitably, as he said, reap more opportunities and rewards. Which is interesting that he said inevitably, because I wouldn't say I could agree that it's inevitable. If you think positive thoughts, you're going to have more opportunities, because some could think positive thoughts and chase every opportunity and never find the success they're looking for. But it is a true statement, like we said, and like he just said, if you're generally a happier person, positive thinking, people want to be around you, people want to give you opportunities because they like you.
That is true. But just for a counterexample, if he's just talking about the physical aspect of this, which he is in this like time, because afterwards he says, if you believe in the more spiritual aspect, that's cool too. But I believe in that general principle of, yes, if you're more positive, like more positive things are going to happen. People are going to like you, opportunities, all that, right? We said that was true at the beginning. But just like you said, just because you're more positive doesn't mean better things are going to happen to you. For example, let's say you're crossing the street one day, right? And you are in a great mood. So you wave to your friend as you cross the street. Because you waved to your friend and you're in a good mood, you would expect good things to be happening to you, right? But because you waved to your friend, you didn't see the car coming and now you're dead, right? Or you're in the hospital or something because you got hit by the car. But there's an alternate universe where you're also crossing the street, but you're in a bad mood. So you're looking down, you didn't notice your friend. As you're walking, you are just like looking forward. You notice the car coming, and so you stop, avoid the car, you cross the street. The bad thing that was going to happen didn't happen to you. So you're in a better world now than you were before, even though you're in a negative mood, right? So it's, of course, not always logical to say that just because you're in a better mood, better things are going to happen to you. Who knows what's going to happen to you, right? Who knows? Who's in control of that? Not you, right? Obviously. But you are in control of your mood, and your mood affects your actions. It affects all those things. Like, yes, that is going to give you a better life if you decide to live a happier life just by controlling your mood. Sure, that's definitely true. I also thought this quote that he gave by Ralph Emerson was really interesting.
Yeah.
Where he says, sow a thought and you'll reap an action, sow an act and you will reap a habit, sow a habit and you will reap a character, sow character and you will reap a destiny. I have had several different youth pastors say the exact same thing to me using Bible verses. Did you experience that in youth group at all?
No, we just partied.
We just partied.
I don't remember it. Actually, I do remember the amazing worship and fun times, but I don't remember a lot of sermons. I know life-changing sermons because I remember how I felt, but I don't remember the words.
Nice. Still a form of partying, but Christian partying.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think this quote's great, right? Like, for sure. Like, that's a true statement. Like, your thoughts are going to impact the destiny of your life 100%. Provable, observable, all that kind of stuff, not demonic or anything like that. But when you relate it to like the spiritual side of all this and saying like, well, those are actually spiritual facts about life, and there's actually some kind of ethereal thing from coming from inside of you or outside in the universe that is manifesting these things to happen. I just don't see the connection, one, on the physical plane, but also I don't see where that power is coming from, evidence for the power, observable things about it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Okay, so I agree with everything you said. That quote, again, it's true. We have said that so many times. If you envision yourself doing something and then you work hard to get to that point, you're probably going to get there. It's not guaranteed. Like I would say this guy might be leaning to say, I don't think it's guaranteed. You might work really hard for something that might never work out. And that's just, that's something that we have to take. And that's something we take in stride. But here are some of my closing thoughts on manifestation. That once I'm done sharing, Derry, I would love to hear your closing thoughts on manifestation as well. But here's where I land. Can Christians envision themselves doing something successful and meaningful and then work towards that goal? Yes. Christians should not call that manifestation, because manifestation is so closely linked with the New Age, with the New Thought movement, with all this stuff that's more Gnostic, and it doesn't make sense. You're just not going to do anything for the witness of Christ. But also the reason Christians shouldn't manifest or even use that term is because manifesting is focusing your will on the universe to accomplish your desires, to make your life what you want it to be. And the Christian's life should be focused on, what does God want to make of my life? And I'm going to focus my thoughts and intentions on God's plans for my life and work to bring about his will. And as I work to bring about his will, he will open doors. He will bless me. He will guide me. He will lead me. And oftentimes in the Christian life, as you're seeking to please God, the steps that he has you take don't make sense for your natural mind. You might want to you might feel like you're called by God to make a ton of money and give it all away. And you see a path, and you have two job opportunities, and one pays a lot more than the other. And so in your natural mind, you're thinking, oh, I want to make a bunch of money to give away. I'm gonna go take this higher paying job. However, if you pray and ask God, he might direct you for the lower paying job, because maybe that's going to teach you some character things. Maybe that's going to teach you some wisdom. Maybe that's going to teach you some stewardship. Maybe that's going to put you in positions to meet people for later down when you're wiser and more mature and you know more about life and how to be trustworthy with the resources God's given you. Then he can trust you with even more than this other job is going to give you, And so it doesn't, so just be following Jesus means putting him first, his will first, and not trying to exert your will on the world and the universe, but being submitted to Jesus's will and allowing him to work through you.
That's good.
I'm gonna unscrew this so I can drop it.
I agree. Yeah. One thing I want to mention about this whole manifestation, law of attraction dealio we've been talking about is when it comes to like the positive beliefs, those are good. But it seems interesting to me that just for some subjective reason, there are still positive and negatives to wanting certain things, right? Like I don't know if it's in this video or in the sermons I watched, where it was like, if you manifest positive things, they're gonna come to you. But if you try to manifest negative things or just like material things like money, like that's the ego and that's not gonna come to you. And I was like, why? Like who controls that?
Only good things can happen to you, Derry. We live in America where nothing bad can happen to us.
Really? But like what do you define as good things? So I can't manifest like money or cars.
Right.
Like, if that's
why is that
just
selfish?
My ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is that selfish? Who gets to decide like what I can and can't manifest? You? Like what book? You know what I mean? Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like why is it the ego? And like if it's the ego, what religion are you calling that from? Or like calling that out from? You know what I mean? Like there's no reference, like there's no standard. You're just saying, oh, I think that's actually bad to want. It's bad to want material things. So you can't actually want them. Well, what if I need to eat some food? I don't have any food.
Yeah.
Like it's a material thing and I want it and it's going to help me. Well, okay, I can manifest that. Okay, well, what if I want to manifest like a gourmet meal? Like that's the same thing. It's still food, like in the substance,
that's
right?
too much. You have to have crumbs.
I should have a good time. Oh, dang, that's good.
Now you're selfish. Yeah. And again, like
There you
back to
go.
this idea, like I was talking about, like why it's bad for Christians to do. A summary statement, I would say it's like, well, if you're manifesting on the idea of like exerting your will, you're actually trying to take the position of God, and that's why it's wrong, because you're trying to play God. You know, God, it's God's universe, it's God's will. Everything's going to happen according to how He wants it to go. To some degree, you know, there's one part in Deuteronomy where He says they did this thing I never planned them to do. In your face, Calvinism. Just kidding. But it's like, look, this is God's world, and so you need to be concerned with the things of God, not the things of you. And
Yeah.
one
You
thing
want to respond at all to some Christians who will say, well, actually, there's a lot of places in the Bible where it says that the law of attraction actually is legit, and it's just how we pray, right? It's like whenever God says, you know, pray in this way, and it'll like be done for you, or God knows how to give good gifts to His children, kind of things that people bring up. There's a lot of other verses, right? But like, if you live a certain way, God's going to give you like the desires of your heart, those kind of things.
Yeah. So the Bible says, let's look up that verse about the desires of the heart, because that's a good one to start with. You want to share some thoughts as I'm
maybe
looking
it's a
that
whole
up?
other podcast. It's a whole other podcast, maybe, because you got to go into interpretation. A lot of people interpret it differently.
I mean, we could keep
it's
going,
not,
and
it's
we
not
can
my will, it's God's will.
We can cut it up into like a shorter video if we wanted. I'm whatever. Some little extra if people want to stick around longer too. Whatever. You want?
I don't have time.
Oh dang. Okay. Well, I won't look it up then and get it all. Yeah, we can do a whole nother podcast on it. But just in brief, I would just say something like, you just got to read things in context. If something's from the Proverbs, you can't take it as literal, because it's just general rules of life. If you're gonna take Proverbs literally, take Ecclesiastes literally too, and then you'll be in a really big pickle because they contradict each other sometimes. For the verse about God knows how to give good gifts to His children, it's true, but God's the one giving the gifts. God decides the gifts, and He gives the gifts. And also another version or another gospel says God knows how to give good gifts to His children. So He knows how to, or He said, you being wicked know how to give good gifts to your children. How much more does God know how to give to the Holy Spirit to those who ask? So one of the gospels says that gift is the Holy Spirit. So there's that context. James says, again, you have to pray according to God's will. If you're just praying like I was for your hairline to come back, it's like God's like, Ethan, that's not my will. You know, I got bigger things planned for you than having a nice hairline. Like, get over it. A lot of it's just confronting our pride, and we need to get on board with God's will, find His will for our life. And some people might say, well, why would it not be God's will to have a hairline? Like, why is that? That's innocent. It's like, well, it's pride. It's like, it might be silly, but it's pride. I had, an ego. I had, pride in my hair. I wanted to look good so I could feel some type of way about myself, and I wasn't feeling the love of God to feel self-fulfillment. I was, how can I look good to feel self-fulfilled? And so it was a good gift that I don't have a hairline, because it made me reorganize my value structures of where I receive love. You know, so for all those people who want to use those Bible verses, I would just really challenge them to take a look in the mirror and really be honest and say, okay, are you being prideful? Are you receiving the love of God for what it is? Or are you trying to assert your own dominance over the world because there's some insecurity? For me, it was insecurity, you know? Yeah.
It takes a lot of twisting of scripture, taking out context to make those verses fit in that kind of a way, right? You got to go through each of them, and they're honestly not hard to explain if we had like a whole podcast to go into them. But yeah, I think it's kind of silly. I would be interested in how many other religions that this movement, the New Thought movement, tries to pull from and takes verses out of context, just that I don't understand or know from Hinduism and Buddhism. I'm not sure if
for
they
the
take them out of
Buddhists, it's
context or not.
hilarious, because if they're bringing anything from Buddhism, the core tenet of Buddhism is that you don't want to have any attachment, because attachments distract you from your ultimate the ultimate purpose, the most valuable thing, which is enlightenment. And so you in order to be enlightened, you have to detach yourself from everything and have no desires. And manifestation, it starts with a desire that they want to see played out in the world. So that's hilarious that they're just like, dragging Buddhism through the mud, not doing it justice.
Yeah. So I'm sure they take some of this out of context as well. Yeah. But my final thoughts on, should Christians do the law of attraction? Should we do manifestation, all that kind of stuff? Just like Ethan said, I wouldn't say the words. I wouldn't use that context. It just like, yoga and other stuff, stretching is different than yoga. right? You can do stretching in the same like ways as yoga, but when you're doing and calling the stretches the same thing that yoga is, right? That's when you're attaching yourself to something that is in its creation a spiritual practice, right? And that's where it becomes dangerous to practice those things.
Amen.
Like actual yoga or like manifestation, the law of attraction, right?
Right.
There's actual spirits behind these things. You can stretch. You can do all the same like stretches that are in yoga, right? There's nothing demonic about stretching your body, right? Your body's supposed to move in those ways. But when you attach it to something is when there's, spiritual things attached to it by definition.
Yeah. The word yoga.
I wouldn't do those things.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I wouldn't do those things. And you didn't say what you're going to say, and then I'll finish real fast.
Yeah, I was going to say, the word yoga means to be yoked to Brahman, the Hindu god. Like,
yeah.
You're saying, you might as well call it demonic manifestation or demonic possession. I'm doing possession today. I'm going to go to my little possession group. We're all going to do possession together.
That's crazy. That's awesome. So for Christians, should you think positively? Yes, you should, right? Could you even envision yourself doing things well? That would probably be a good idea, right? Should I envision myself and hope I do a good job at work? Sure. Is there anything demonic about me seeing myself like hitting some free throws and then going and practicing and doing it? I don't think there's anything demonic about that. But when you attach it to a spiritual principle, right? And say, like, even if you don't believe it, when you attach it to the spiritual side of manifesting and the law of attraction, you are by definition attaching yourself to a different religion than the one that you, if you're a Christian, say you believe in. That's when you start to, serve other idols. That's pretty dangerous. The Bible says a lot of stuff about that. I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
100%. Yeah. Like when I'm at work and I'm thinking about selling insurance, I'm envisioning myself doing a killer job. I envision myself doing a great job presenting and explaining the insurance. So I am kind of like doing it more. So when I'm on the phone, I'm doing it. It's like the more you do something, the more you get better.
Practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I envision myself podcasting sometimes when I'm thinking about doing the intro. I like run through it in my head. I think about doing a good job. And so, yeah, just imagining yourself doing great things is not a problem. I think you summed it up great.
Yeah.
So, guys, have a great week. Don't manifest. Also, don't use that term as a Christian because usually that means demons.
Please.
If you're manifesting, it usually means you're having a demonic problem. So that was also another reason not to use that word. You guys have a great week and share this video with someone who needs it. Shoots.